First Contact Complications. The gleaming conference chamber of the Galactic Confederation's central hub vibrated with an uncomfortable tension. Ambassador Elena Rodriguez stood her ground, her dark eyes scanning the semicircle of alien representatives whose appendages, tentacles, and crystalline forms shifted with barely contained frustration. Krellax, the Varonian diplomatic attaché, clicked his mandibles in what Elena recognized as a sign of extreme agitation. His iridescent exoskeleton rippled with waves of blue and green, a telltale sign of emotional turbulence among his species. "You cannot be serious," Krellax chittered, his translation implant converting the clicks and whistles into remarkably precise English. "Your proposed communication protocol completely undermines 3,000 years of established galactic diplomatic procedure." Elena allowed herself a small smile. Behind her, Dr. Marcus Williams, the team's xenolinguistic expert, suppressed a chuckle. They had anticipated this reaction. "With all due respect," Elena responded, her voice calm and measured, "your current communication protocols have a 67% misinterpretation rate across species. Our proposed adaptive linguistic framework reduces that to less than 3%. The chamber fell silent. The holographic display between them flickered, showing complex linguistic algorithms that looked more like intricate mathematical art than traditional communication models. Zara Nex, the crystalline representative from the Luminarian cluster, shifted her prismatic form. Her voice emerged as a melodic resonance that seemed to vibrate through the very walls. "Explain." Marcus stepped forward, activating a series of holographic projections. "Traditional diplomatic communication relies on fixed translation matrices. Our model uses contextual learning, emotional mapping, and real-time cultural adaptation. It doesn't just translate words, it translates meaning." A murmur rippled through the alien delegates. The human delegation had come prepared, but no one expected this level of comprehensive communication redesign. Krellax's mandibles clicked rapidly, what Elena now recognized as their equivalent of nervous muttering. "Impossible," he insisted, but with less conviction. "We've already tested it," Elena said, pulling up a series of simulation results. "In our trials, the adaptive protocol successfully mediated communication between 127 different species, including several that have been in diplomatic stalemate for centuries." The implications were staggering. Communication was the lifeblood of the Galactic Confederation. Misunderstandings had started wars, prevented crucial collaborations, and kept entire civilizations isolated. Zara Nex's crystalline form shifted, catching and refracting light in complex patterns that Elena had learned represented deep contemplation. "Demonstration," the Luminarian announced. It wasn't a request. Marcus grinned. This was the moment they had prepared for. He activated a complex holographic interface, bringing up a series of translation scenarios. Each one was a diplomatic nightmare. Communication breakdowns that had previously resulted in centuries of misunderstandings, trade embargoes, and near conflicts. One by one, the adaptive protocol rewrote the communication, revealing nuanced meanings, cultural contexts, and emotional undercurrents that traditional translation methods had completely missed. Krellax's exoskeleton shifted from agitated blue-green to a stunned purple-gold. The other delegates leaned forward, their various sensory appendages focused intently on the demonstration. "Impossible," Krellax repeated, but now it sounded more like a prayer of wonder than a statement of denial. Elena exchanged a quick glance with Marcus. They both knew this was more than just a technological breakthrough. This was humanity's first true diplomatic victory in the galactic arena, a moment that would reshape interspecies communication forever. "Not impossible," Elena said quietly, "just something no one had thought to try before." As the conference chamber erupted into a cacophony of translations, debates, and barely contained excitement, the human delegation stood united. They hadn't just proposed a new communication protocol. They had just demonstrated why humanity was rapidly becoming a force to be reckoned with in the galactic community. The first contact was about to get very interesting. The quarantine incident. 3 standard galactic cycles after the communication protocol breakthrough, the Confederation found itself facing an unprecedented crisis. The Nexus Cluster, a densely populated region spanning 17 star systems, was under threat from a rapidly mutating atmospheric pathogen that defied conventional containment methods. Quarantine is impossible, declared Arch Administrator Vorin of the Galactic Health Directorate, his tentacular appendages writhing with frustration during the emergency session. The pathogen mutates faster than our decontamination protocols can adapt. We're looking at potential systemic collapse of multiple civilizations. Ambassador Elena Rodriguez studied the holographic projection of the infected regions. The swirling patterns of contamination looked like a malevolent storm, consuming entire planetary ecosystems with terrifying efficiency. Dr. Marcus Williams leaned forward, his fingers dancing across a portable computational device. "What if we approach this differently?" he muttered, more to himself than to the assembled delegates. Elena recognized that look. It was the same expression he'd worn just before their breakthrough in communication protocols. "Marcus," she prompted. He looked up, eyes bright with an idea that was clearly still forming. The pathogen adapts too quickly for standard containment. But what if adaptation is exactly what we need to fight it? Krellax, still somewhat awed by the humans' previous diplomatic triumph, clicked his mandibles in curiosity. "Explain." Marcus pulled up a complex series of molecular diagrams. "Every containment strategy we've seen relies on creating a static barrier, but this pathogen is dynamic. It's not just a virus. It's a rapidly evolving complex organism that responds to environmental constraints." The chamber fell silent. Even the most advanced xenobiologists among the delegates leaned in, sensing something revolutionary was about to be proposed. "We need a living containment strategy," Marcus continued. "Something that can evolve in real time, matching the pathogen's mutation rate." Elena caught on immediately. "Adaptive nano-ecological systems," she said softly. The implications were staggering. The Luminarian representative, Zura Nex, her crystalline form pulsing with intellectual excitement, responded first. "Impossible. Our most advanced nano-engineering cannot achieve such complexity." Dr. Aisha Kapoor, the human team's xenobiological specialist who had been silent until now, spoke up. "Not impossible. Just not something you've tried before." The words echoed their earlier diplomatic breakthrough, and several delegates shifted uncomfortably. Humanity had a habit of turning impossible into just discovered. Over the next several cycles, the human team worked tirelessly. They didn't just propose a solution, they began constructing it. Drawing from Earth's most complex ecological systems, they designed nanoorganisms that could not just contain the pathogen, but actively learn from and counteract its mutations. It was biological warfare on a microscopic scale, but with a twist. These were not destructive agents, but adaptive, intelligent ecosystems designed to neutralize without total elimination. "We're not destroying the pathogen," Marcus explained during a critical briefing. "We're creating a conversation with it, teaching it that survival doesn't mean total consumption." The breakthrough came unexpectedly. During a simulation that most alien scientists had written off as another human flight of fancy, the adaptive nanosystem not only contained the pathogen, but began to transform its molecular structure. Krellax's mandibles clicked in what could only be described as shock. "It's communicating with the pathogen." "Exactly," Aisha said with a smile. "We're not fighting. We're negotiating, at a molecular level." As reports began streaming in from the Nexus cluster, the impossible became reality. Entire planetary systems that were hours away from total ecological collapse began to stabilize. The pathogen didn't die. It changed. It adapted. It found a way to coexist. The Galactic Confederation watched in stunned silence as humanity once again rewrote the rules of what was possible. Elena Rodriguez looked at her team. They had done more than solve a crisis. They had demonstrated a fundamental truth about human approach to challenges, where others saw barriers. Humans saw conversations waiting to happen. The quarantine was more than contained. It was transformed. Technological breakthrough. The research facility orbited a neutron star, its sleek contours a testament to human engineering prowess. Dr. Raj Patel stood before a holographic display, his fingers tracing complex energy patterns that seemed to dance between quantum states. "They said it was impossible," he muttered, a familiar refrain that had become something of a running joke among human researchers. Dr. Elena Rodriguez's voice crackled through the communication link. "Impossible is just a word we haven't solved yet." The project was ambitious beyond comprehension, developing a clean energy source that could potentially solve multiple galactic energy crises. The Confederation's leading scientists had declared such a breakthrough fundamentally unachievable. Quantum energy harvesting had been a theoretical dream for millennia, with every advanced civilization hitting the same insurmountable barriers. But humans didn't understand the concept of insurmountable. Nearby, a team of alien scientific observers watched with a mixture of skepticism and barely concealed curiosity. Representatives from the Crystalline Concordance, the Veronian Technocracy, and the Luminarian Research Collective had been invited to witness what many considered would be yet another failed human experiment. Raj knew the stakes. The neutron star before them pulsed with more energy than most star systems could consume in a millennium. Traditional harvesting methods were like trying to drink an ocean with a straw. Most of the energy was lost, wasted, impossible to capture. "Initiate quantum resonance sequence," Raj commanded. The facility hummed. Quantum stabilizers, a human innovation that had already raised eyebrows across the galaxy, began to align. Where previous attempts had failed, creating only momentary, unstable energy spikes, this approach was different. The alien observers leaned forward. The lead crystalline researcher, whose body was a lattice of interconnected light-refracting nodes, projected a translation. Impossible, the universal translator rendered the complex light patterns. Raj smiled. He'd heard that word before. The energy harvesting began not as a violent extraction, but as a delicate conversation. The quantum stabilizers didn't fight the neutron star's intense energy. They danced with it. Each pulse was met with a precisely calculated response, creating a feedback loop that was part physics, part quantum choreography. Gigawatts became terawatts. Terawatts became petawatts. The energy collection wasn't just efficient, it was elegant. "Impossible," the crystalline researcher repeated, but now it sounded more like a prayer of wonder. Dr. Rodriguez's voice came through again. "How's it looking, Raj?" "We're not just collecting energy," Raj responded, his voice filled with a mixture of scientific excitement and wonder. "We're having a conversation with a star." The implications were staggering. This wasn't just an energy harvesting method. It was a fundamental reimagining of how energy could be understood, collected, and utilized. The alien observers began communicating rapidly. Their light patterns and quantum communications betrayed a growing sense of astonishment. Centuries of scientific research had been upended in moments. As the data streams began to stabilize, Raj knew they had done more than create a new energy source. They had opened a door to an entirely new understanding of energy itself. The Veronian representative's translation device struggled to capture the complexity of their reaction. "This challenges everything we understand about quantum mechanics," it finally managed. Raj simply smiled. "We're just getting started." Outside the facility, the neutron star continued its ancient dance, now with a new partner, humanity's unbridled curiosity and innovative spirit. Another impossible had just become possible. The diplomatic challenge. The Galactic Confederation's Grand Chamber was a marvel of architectural engineering. A vast, spherical space where light seemed to bend around the representatives of countless civilizations. Today that light focused intently on Ambassador Elena Rodriguez and her human delegation. "Your recent technological developments," began Arch-Counselor Vorin, his tentacular appendages weaving complex patterns of diplomatic tension, "have created significant complications." Elena remained perfectly still. She had learned that in galactic diplomacy, stillness could be more powerful than motion. The complications were substantial. The quantum energy harvesting technology, developed by Dr. Raj Patel, threatened to upend centuries of established galactic economic structures. Energy had always been a currency of power, and humans had just rewritten that entire equation. Krelax, the Varonian diplomatic attaché, clicked his mandibles nervously. The potential destabilization of current energy trade agreements cannot be overstated. His translation device rendered in precise, almost mechanical English. Dr. Marcus Williams, seated beside Elena, leaned forward slightly. "With all due respect," he said, "isn't the point of technological advancement to solve existing problems?" A ripple of tension passed through the assembled delegates. Humans had a way of asking questions that cut directly to the heart of complex issues. The Luminarian representative, Zara Nex, her crystalline form pulsing with intellectual energy, spoke next. "It is not about solving problems. It is about the balance of power." Elena chose her next words carefully. "Power isn't a zero-sum game," she responded. "Our technology doesn't seek to replace existing systems. It seeks to complement them." But everyone in the chamber knew this was about more than energy. This was about control, about who gets to define progress in the galactic community. The human delegation had come prepared. Alongside the technical specifications of their quantum energy harvesting technology, they had developed a comprehensive proposal for shared implementation. It wasn't just a technological breakthrough, it was a diplomatic masterpiece. "We propose a collaborative framework," Elena continued, activating a holographic display that showed intricate pathways of technological and economic integration. "Every civilization can benefit, not just through access to clean energy, but through collaborative development." Krelax's mandibles stopped their nervous clicking. The proposal was audacious and surprisingly equitable. Dr. Aisha Kapoor, the team's xenobiological specialist, added crucial context. "This isn't about human dominance. This is about collective advancement." The chamber fell silent. The holographic display continued to rotate, showing potential scenarios of shared technological development that seemed to dissolve traditional boundaries between civilizations. Arch-Counselor Voron's tentacles slowly settled into a posture that, in diplomatic circles, suggested careful consideration. "Explain the safeguards," he demanded. And so they did. For the next several cycles, the human delegation demonstrated not just technological brilliance, but a nuanced understanding of galactic politics that went far beyond military or economic might. They were offering something revolutionary, true collaboration. As the diplomatic session continued, it became clear that the real breakthrough wasn't the quantum energy technology. It was the approach. Humans weren't seeking to conquer or replace. They were inviting everyone to reimagine what was possible. The Galactic Confederation was about to change forever, not through conflict, but through conversation. Elena Rodriguez allowed herself a small smile. Another impossible was being redefined right before their eyes. Humanity's defining moment. The crisis came without warning. A massive gravitational anomaly threatened to destabilize an entire sector of the Galactic Confederation, putting billions of lives from multiple civilizations at risk. Traditional response protocols crumbled in the face of the unprecedented threat. Dr. Raj Patel stood in the central command hub, his fingers flying across holographic interfaces. Beside him, Dr. Aisha Kapoor analyzed complex gravitational models that seemed to defy all known physics. "It's not just pulling," Aisha muttered. "It's consuming." Entire star systems are being reorganized at a fundamental level. Ambassador Elena Rodriguez watched the growing crisis with a calm that belied the magnitude of the threat. The Galactic Confederation's most brilliant minds had been working for cycles, and they were no closer to a solution. Krelax, the Varonian diplomatic liaison who had witnessed humanity's previous breakthroughs, approached with an uncharacteristic lack of formal protocol. "We are out of options," he admitted, his mandibles drooping in a universal gesture of defeat. That was when Marcus Williams spoke up. "Not yet," he said, a familiar glint of possibility in his eyes. The solution, when it came, was quintessentially human. Drawing from their previous breakthroughs in communication protocols, pathogen adaptation, and quantum energy harvesting, the human team proposed something that seemed completely counterintuitive. "We're not going to fight the gravitational anomaly," Raj explained to the stunned assembly of galactic scientists and diplomats. "We're going to communicate with it." Zara Nex, the Luminarian representative, her crystalline form pulsing with skeptical energy, translated the human proposal. "Communicate with a gravitational anomaly. Impossible." Elena smiled. They'd heard that word before. The approach was complex beyond comprehension. Instead of trying to counteract the gravitational forces, the human team proposed using their adaptive communication protocols to understand the fundamental language of the anomaly itself. It wasn't about stopping the event. It was about understanding its intrinsic nature. As the first phase of their plan began, the entire command hub fell silent. Quantum sensors, adapted from their previous energy harvesting technology, began to map the anomaly's behavior. But this was more than mapping. It was a form of translation. Hours turned into cycles. The gravitational anomaly, which had been consuming star systems with ruthless efficiency, began to slow, then pause, then, impossibly, start to stabilize. "It's listening," Marcus whispered, more to himself than anyone else. The final breakthrough came from an unexpected combination of technologies. The communication protocols that had revolutionized diplomatic understanding, the adaptive systems that had neutralized the galactic pathogen, the quantum energy harvesting techniques, all converged into a single, elegant solution. The gravitational anomaly didn't just stop. It transformed. What had been a destructive force became something else entirely, a complex, self-regulating system that seemed to breathe with an intelligence of its own. Krellax's translation device struggled to capture the moment. "You did not stop the anomaly," he said finally. "You conversed with it." Elena nodded. "That's usually the best way to solve any problem." In the days that followed, the Galactic Confederation underwent a fundamental transformation. Humanity was no longer seen as a newcomer or a potential threat. They were recognized as something far more important, problem solvers who saw challenges not as obstacles, but as opportunities for understanding. The gravitational anomaly became a research site, a testament to what could be achieved when curiosity replaced conflict. As the first joint research vessels prepared to explore the transformed region, Ambassador Rodriguez looked out at the stars. Humanity had done more than save a sector. They had shown the galaxy a new way of thinking. Another impossible had been redefined, and they were just getting started.